Located in Buchanan Dam, Texas, this 30x40 black and white tubular metal building with the sleek lean-to is already turning heads.
Stick around for the specs on this awesome building. Welcome back, Pack. It's Anadela and Jared here from WolfSteel Buildings, and we are going all the way to Buchanan Dam, Texas to check out a 30x40 black and white, most popular color scheme metal building.
That's right, we got some beautiful drone shots, but it's another tubular metal building. It's got overhead doors, gutters, spray foam. We did the concrete so you know there's no water seepage, and it's got a nice lean-to top it off.
Yes, guys, but before we jump in, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to follow us on all of our social medias. We are gonna try to start a new segment for you guys where we start giving you guys an insights before we go out to the tour, allowing you guys to leave comments or questions for the tours while we're out there. So definitely make sure to follow us on our social media, and let's get this video rolling.
Let's jump right in.
How did the client find us? What is the story behind it? Because every building has a story, Jared, and I know that you guys get to talk to the clients and know what that story is a little bit about.
Yeah, so the client was looking for the best metal building company in Texas, and when you do a quick Google search in Texas, there's only one result that pops in. Right? And from there, you know, he got in contact with us, reached out to Anthony, shout out to Texas Lobos team. Pretty much the customer, I can't say too much about the sales process, but I know what he was using the building for. He was using it to store his boats, his, you know, ATVs, things like that. Just general storage for his toys. And I think even then after, you know, once we got the building up, he was like, hey, I got my boat in, and, you know, sent us some pictures. It was pretty cool.
Was there any permits that were required for this property, Jared?
Yeah, there was some permits. Shout out to the permitting team, first and foremost, because they deal with all the hard stuff. They got to dealing with the cities, back and forth. And
lots of tedious work.
It's a mess. In the building side and the concrete side, we get the easy part. We get the fun part, you know, but they also got to deal with all that. So also marketing helped me out here, list the permitting requirements.
Yeah, and one thing to remember, guys, with our permitting, in order for us to help you guys with that process is a new step that we're adding. We will only help you with that if we are doing your concrete. Again, going back to some of the mess that the team is having to deal with is due to the fact that cities now say, hey, well, if you're doing concrete and you're doing building, everything needs to be under one permit. So it's a little hard when we don't have access or insights to who your contractor is that you're using, and then we can't pull permits at a different time. So just too much that is involved in there. And biggest thing that we like to control is one, the control of the communication of everything and making sure that it is a smooth process for you. So in order to do that, that's why we've kind of switched that on there. But let's go ahead and move on to the specs, Jared. I think coolest thing, hopefully by now B-rolls are popping up for them.
All right, we got a 30x40 by 11. That's 11 foot tall to the eaves, 30 foot wide, 40 foot in depth. This customer, he made it actually pretty interesting. He did the doors on the side. So looks pretty nice. I like the look of it. It's an all vertical building, 29 gauge panels, roof and sides. It's a black roof, white walls, black trim and base trim. So it's the ever so popular black and white. It's got a two-tone black wainscot panel at the bottom. And then it's got that matching base trim, you know, to make it look pretty slick. It's got that 12x25 lean-to, 11 tall on the high side, 9 on the low side. We call it a continuous lean-to.
Has a slight break.
Yeah, it has a slight break, mostly so we can change the roof pitch. And then it's got two 11x7 frame mounts, and then he got the sheet metal to cover that.
Really, really nice. Actually, sometimes when we have those open, we do like to tell the sales guys kind of have it, hey, if you can enclose that, definitely do so. I think it actually even gives an illusion of like the building still being fully enclosed with that opening. So really, really good on there. Lean-to is a great addition to any building. I think it helps you kind of have additional space without adding to your main building, which doesn't add on to the cost as much if you're having to like go into that above 30 is that commercial trussing. So big changes into the pricing on there. And then also you can't go wrong with black and white. I think it's just kind of been the most popular for the last like 2 years. I would say it's going to take the punch again for the most popular color scheme this year.
Yeah, I think we got a joke in the office that, you know, the only thing competing with black and white is white and black.
Sometimes we like to say that we might be going colorblind mind because we don't really see much colors on here, but there is a lot of color schemes that we do want to see. I'm gonna actually pop some up on the screen. Some of them being like adding some of those colony greens, some reds. The burnished slate is a super cool color. We have a copper. It's available at an additional cost.
Well, on 26 gauge, it is not an additional cost. On 29 gauge, it is. That's 26 gauge PBR, which is our standard for red iron. And then 29 gauge, it is an additional cost.
So,
slight
additional cost. So definitely color schemes that we want to see. I will be popping up some architectural plans for you guys to check them out and see how those would look like. Super, super nice. So for everything that we've mentioned on here, which is that 30x40 building, the lean-to off to the side, of course, we're also including the vertical two-tone wainscot. If you do go upgrade with a vertical, there's an additional fee. There is an extra truss, which we will talk a little bit about further down. This was mainly, Jared, you said it was for?
The extra truss is just to help accommodate for the big headers on the lean-to.
On the building. Colored screws, pretty much everything delivered and installed. The full turnkey cost comes out to a total of... So Jared, what is a turnkey cost for this building and lean-to?
So for just the building and the lean-to, so just pretty much the bones, right? We got, so that's a 30x40 main structure, 1,200 square feet, a 12x25 open lean-to, that's 300 square feet.
It does have that the closed panels off to the side, but open building itself.
Exactly. And then it's got that vertical two-tone wainscot. It's got those two big headers on the lean-to, which we did have to accommodate by adding some extra trusses to be able to, you know, kind of work with the
spacings.
Spacings. It's more simple things that engineering requires. Colored screws, base trim, foam enclosures, fully delivered, installed on your slab.
On your slab. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to concrete, which is one of the biggest things. I think this concrete was a little bit different. So let's go ahead and move on. So moving on into what is concrete, I think this one, the site in itself was just very crazy. There was a lot of things that we had to overcome. This is in hill country. We've been very popular in hill country, Jared. One thing about it though is that the land was extremely off level. I think you have a little bit of insights as to how that was.
Furthest corner that was off level was 42 inches bearing. I think to level it out, we had to bring in like almost 210 yards of fill.
Yeah, so lots of things that kind of went in there with the site prep. So one of the things that we always mention in all of the videos, and you will hear it not just from us, but also just across the industry, is where are you located? Where is the building going? Pricing may vary by location. And the reason we say that is for things like this, right? Hill country, Fort Worth, Houston, everything is a little different as to where your site is at. That might mean, you mentioned earlier, adding additional trussing can change your price on your type of building, right? For concrete, it's things like this, how off level it is. And then there's just other things that kind of go into play. I mean, Jared, and I know that you probably maybe have a little bit of insights on that, but.
Yeah, so for like buildings, the biggest thing that goes into effect is wind loads more than anything, at least here in Texas. We say snow loads, but really you're talking like from a 5 ground to a 10 ground.
Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy. The problem is with concrete is it's more soil based. So wind loads, it's, you know, very easily documented. Hey, you're in this area, 130, 140, 155, right? Or certain requirements. With concrete, it's like, well, it's all based off the soil type. You know, in Fort Worth, there's a lot of clay. Hill country, there's a lot of rock, you know? So it's a lot that varies into it. And that's why, you know, we like to conduct that site visit prior to really giving you those hard numbers on concrete.
Correct. So we never include, and that's why we don't ever include the site prep on there, or also any like custom approaches or things like that, because those are very, very dependent on what your site looks like. But for this building, it was a 30x40 with a lean-to. We did pour a 4-inch slab for everything that is on the building. And then we also did the standard rebar. We always do rebar. And then we do have perimeter notching all around the building for the doors, perimeter footers, and internal beams for the whole concrete in itself. What does the concrete come out to, Jared?
For this, the concrete came out to...
And that is everything that we've mentioned on here. You should be seeing it pop up on your screen with several B-rolls. Now, Jared, I actually want to talk about, I think the biggest thing that makes the building yours, doors and windows, and he did have a variation of a lot of different things.
Yeah, so we got 2 8x8 overhead doors and 1 9x8 overhead door. They're both the flush panel, so it's an R10, and he did stick with the standard white, but, you know, I think it matches his building pretty good.
Yeah.
He did go with the overhead door openers on them, and then he got 2 36x84 inch steel walk-in doors and 5 double pane windows, which they're insulated double pane windows, and I guess that'll lead us into our next section.
Yeah, so the next section, that's where I was gonna go based off of you have insulated overhead doors, insulated walk-in doors, and then the insulated windows, which I would like to point out, we no longer offer single pane windows, we only offer double pane windows. But in this case, there's so lots of installations that we keep mentioning on with the doors, which is insulated overhead doors, insulated walk-in doors, and the insulated windows. So with that, it kind of pairs really well when you're getting an insulated building.
Yeah, so the customer got the 1-inch closed cell spray foam on the roof and walls, which is very good. He did get a black roof, so usually
Offset that.
yeah, it kind of offsets it. The great thing also is that it is a black roof, so it does attract a little bit more heat. There is always an option to pour an extra inch there, or spray an extra inch there on the roof, make it 2-inch. But, you know, that's something as you use your metal building, you know, you have it more, it's something you can always do afterwards, right? And we did stick with the yellow standard spray foam. It's an R7, but the thing I like about spray foam, it's a full air barrier.
Yeah.
So that's a big plus. And you know, you can find out more about this, all the options for, at least for installation that we offer on a tubular metal building. I think we just came out with the video like 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago.
Be linked down below where we talk about the tubular installation options that we offer for our tubular buildings, as Jared did mention. But there's also another video, Jared, where we go over the additional colors that we offer. That'll also be linked down below, and where we are going over the white, the black. There is 2 types of gray on there, and then like what those costs will look like, and then pros and cons to the different colors. All of that will be linked down below. We'll make sure to have it on there for you guys. So Jared, what was the total cost for all of these insulated accessories, which was the 3 overhead doors? He did get steel, the heavy duty steel doors, and the double pane windows, plus the insulation itself. And he also had gutters and downspouts.
Yeah, so the total cost for all the building accessories came out to...
So if you're looking at everything that we've mentioned up until now, which is the building, the lean-to, all the vertical upgrade, we also have the what we just mentioned now, which was the insulated overhead doors, the insulated steel walk-in doors, the concrete, the windows, all materials, labor, delivery, installation, and of course taxes. Pretty much everything that we've been mentioning here comes out to a total of... Once again, guys, we would like to point out pricing does vary by location. Maybe your building will be a little bit different based off of your location if you were to ask us for this exact building. One thing I do want to go over, Jared, is typically we do red iron versus tubular at the end of, you know, our pricing videos or anything of that sort. I actually want to go over a little bit about what makes tubular buildings just very different, and it's how much you can customize them to take on or off. So first off, as we've been mentioning, he did get a lot of upgrades, and that's what makes this building, you know, kind of jump in the pricing. As we noticed, the building itself, honestly, I think it's a great price for the building that he got. And then we start adding those upgrades on there. So how can a client looking at this, how can they save money on this type of building?
So first thing they could do is switch to horizontal paneling. That's where the ribs of the panel run side to side, horizontal, parallel with the ground. And that would be a pretty big savings just off that vertical upcharge, because there's additional framing that needs to be added. But since this customer also got 2-tone wainscot, that's where it's, you know, double colored on the sides. We don't charge extra for the horizontal paneling.
But we do with vertical, yeah. So that's where the upgrade comes in.
So that would be, yeah, there wouldn't be an extra charge there for the 2-tone, just because all we do is just overlap the panels, no extra trim, no extra framing, nothing. So that would be a pretty big savings just in and of itself. Also the spray foam. So in this case, the customer obviously wanted it fully insulated, right?
Doing work in there needed the insulation.
Exactly. So removing the full spray foam from the quote could save, you know,
large cost.
Pretty decent amount. The overhead doors and the steel doors, switching those over to like just a standard roll-up door or just our standard mobile home door. That would be one big, you know, cost savings. And then from there, you know, the extra trusses. Now this is kind of depending on your area.
Your location,
depending on your location, if you could or could not remove it, but that would also, you know, be a savings.
Correct. So there's lots of ways for this building to like change according to what you're needing. And that's kind of what I'm mentioning. That's the pros about tubular buildings. The buildings themselves is a cost, but all those additional doors, additional windows, that's kind of what adds on there. So if we were to kind of remove those overhead doors, switching them into the standard roll-up doors, switching the heavy-duty steel walk-in doors to the regular mobile home doors, we do have to keep the double pane windows because we do not offer single pane windows anymore. And then maybe removing your spray foam and going from vertical to horizontal. So kind of keeping the standards, not doing those additional upgrades. You're looking at a total cost of, it's still including the building, the concrete, and then of course just a change in some of those accessories. So pretty big jump in a lot of these things. Don't have the exact amount, but it's about $30,000 that you're saving in just additional upgrades that sometimes maybe you as a client might not need that this client did get. Jared, you mentioned earlier, well, sometimes the clients like to make some changes or like, oh, well, this is what I can work with now. Later on, I think I can add in, additional spray foam or things like that. What is it that you would recommend for a client who is like, I want to stay within a specific amount, but there's things that they really want or need?
Yeah, so like right there, the insulated overhead doors and the steel doors, I think they're great accessories, especially the insulation on the overhead doors. Me personally, the way I would, kind of recommend to a customer is, hey, keep those, right? Because if you get a non-insulated overhead door, you can add insulation to
the boards.
Yeah, it just doesn't look as clean. So I would recommend getting your, obviously the steel door and your doors insulated, removing the spray foam, because you can always come back and spray foam 1, 2, 3, 10 years down the road, right? And
that's a pro of that type of insulation.
That's a pro, whereas in like the fiberglass or the solar guard, you got to do it during construction. So that's something I would recommend. You can always spray foam later, but those little things, I would recommend getting them all during the process.
So just removing the spray foam, and honestly, spray foam in itself can be a good amount. And one thing is if you are saying, hey, I'm going to spray foam later though, very, very important for you to let us know so we can add in things like your foam gap enclosures and then also the steel door, because that mobile home door, you guys have had issues in the past with that mobile home door and spray foam.
Yeah, it's an aluminum frame. So when you're spraying it warps the frame and it just kind of throws off.
Yeah, so lots of little things, very, very important. We always mention it in all of our videos. Let us know what you're using the building for, guys. WolfSteel Buildings is always here to help, and that can be anything starting from the sales process. So I would like to shout out Anthony and the Texas Lobos. Their information will be popping up on the screen here in case you guys do want to work with them. It's the first time that you guys get a little bit of feel of Anthony and the type of projects that he works on, but he's been here with us for a while. Definitely someone that you guys can reach out to. Anthony, they come and they work with you guys on the building team on how to make the projects work. I know that they ask you guys questions. Well, can we make this work? How can we make this work? And then you guys are kind of going back to the drawing board on that. Also, the site team, everyone kind of plays a very, very important role as to how these projects come to be.
Yeah, no, I definitely love working with the million question salesman.
Yeah, so definitely, guys, as always though, we hope that you enjoyed this video. We hope that this building gave you guys ideas on things that you can do. And Jared, any final words?
Let's do some different colors.
Let's see some different colors on there, guys. Make sure that you guys are getting ideas, anything like that. Comment down below any questions that you guys may have, whether it be on this building or on any questions so that we can ask you guys that are the experts in the building team, your coordinators, concrete, anything of that sort, guys. But we will see you guys in the next video.
What's up, Pack? Remember to stay up to date with everything that we're up to by checking out our social media. You can find us at WolfSteel Buildings for behind the scenes action. We share our latest projects, update on what the team is working on, and all the exciting progress happening in real time. Don't miss out on the action, and remember to give us a follow.